Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something that's truly at the core of a faith-filled life. Something that has the power to reshape how we see the world and our place in it. We're going to dive deep into the topic of generosity, not just as an action, but as a reflection of God's own heart. Have you ever stopped to think about the ultimate act of generosity? The Bible tells us in John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son." This isn't just a verse we memorize, it's the foundation of everything. God's very nature is giving. He gave us life, he gave us this beautiful world, and ultimately he gave his Son for our redemption. The entire story of our faith begins with a profound act of divine generosity. So, when we talk about being generous, we're not just talking about being nice or charitable. We're talking about participating in the very character of God. It's about letting his love flow through us to others. Think about it this way. When you receive an incredible gift, something truly life-changing, what's your natural response? You want to share the joy, right? You want to tell people about it. You might even feel inspired to give something to someone else. Our relationship with God is like that. When we truly grasp the magnitude of his grace, this unearned, undeserved gift of love and forgiveness, it changes us from the inside out. Generosity stops being a duty and becomes a joyful response. It becomes a natural expression of a heart that is overflowing with gratitude. It's no longer about how much do I have to give, but rather, how can I not give knowing how much I've been given? Let's get practical for a moment. What does this look like in our everyday lives? Generosity isn't limited to writing a big check, though that can certainly be a part of it. It's about cultivating a generous spirit in all areas of our lives. It's being generous with our time, stopping to listen to a friend who is struggling, even when our schedule is packed. It's being generous with our words, offering encouragement instead of criticism. It's being generous with our talents, using our skills to serve our church or community without expecting anything in return. Think of the story of the Good Samaritan. He didn't just toss a few coins. He gave his time, his resources, and his personal attention to someone in desperate need. He saw a person, not a problem. That's God-hearted generosity in action. It's about seeing the needs around us and responding with the same compassion that God has shown us. Now, you might be thinking, that's great, but I don't have much to give, and that's a thought that holds so many of us back. But let us look at the story of the widow's mite in Mark chapter 12. Jesus is watching people put their offerings into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts. But then a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Jesus calls his disciples over and says, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth. But she, out of her poverty, put in everything all she had to live on." This story is revolutionary. It teaches us that God doesn't measure our generosity by the amount, but by the sacrifice. It's not about the size of the gift. It's about the state of the heart. A small act of giving, done with great love and from a place of trust in God's provision, echoes in eternity far more than a large gift given from abundance with no real sacrifice. So, never discount the value of what you have to offer, no matter how small it may seem to you. When we practice generosity, something amazing happens to our faith. It actively fights against the idols of greed and materialism that so easily take root in our hearts. In a world that constantly tells us to accumulate more, to look out for number one, generosity is a radical act of rebellion. It declares that our security isn't in our bank account, but in our Heavenly Father. It's an act of trust. Every time we give, we are essentially saying, "God, I trust that you are my provider. I believe you will take care of my needs, so I can freely use what you've given me to take care of others." This process of letting go actually strengthens our dependence on him, deepening our faith in a way that just thinking about it never could. As Jesus said in Matthew 6, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Giving generously helps us to set our hearts on heavenly things. Furthermore, generosity profoundly shapes our relationships. When we are generous, we reflect God's love to the people around us, and this can be incredibly powerful. It can mend broken relationships, build bridges in our communities, and open doors to share our faith. A simple act of kindness, an unexpected gift, or a helping hand can soften a hardened heart and make someone receptive to the love of God that you are demonstrating. It's showing, not just telling. People may doubt what we say, but it's harder to doubt what we do. When our lives are marked by a spirit of open-handed generosity, we become living proof of a loving and giving God. We become conduits of His grace, and our relationships, both within the church and outside of it, become richer and more meaningful. So how can we start to cultivate a more generous heart? It begins with prayer. Ask God to show you the world through His eyes. Ask Him to break your heart for the things that break His. Ask Him to help you see the abundance He has already placed in your life, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. Then start small. Look for one opportunity this week to be generous. Maybe it's buying a coffee for the person behind you, spending an hour helping a neighbor with their yard work, or writing a note of encouragement to someone who feels forgotten. Don't wait for a grand gesture. Start with a small step of faith. Remember the widow's mite. The amount is not the point. The heart is the point. As you take these small steps, you'll find that generosity isn't a burden, it's a blessing. It unlocks a joy and a freedom that clinging to our possessions can never provide. Living a life of generosity is an adventure in faith. It's about learning to hold what we have loosely, trusting that our true source of life and security is God Himself. It's about reflecting His incredible, self-giving love to a world that desperately needs to see it. It's about aligning our hearts with His. When we give, we are at our most Christ-like, because we are imitating our Father who so loved the world that He gave. Thank you so much for joining me today to explore this incredible topic. I hope this has encouraged you to think about generosity in a new way. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Share one way you've seen generosity impact your life or the life of someone else. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.